Welcome to the program, everyone, and really privileged today to have on the show Larry Levine from California. Larry is the author of Selling from the Heart, which is just a tremendous book that I recommend everyone get a hold of. Larry has a long sales career, more than 30 years in the office products copier category, and we'll be talking about that. So, Larry, real pleasure to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Awesome. I'm so looking forward to this. So from California to one of my favorite places in Sydney, Australia, I'm jealous.
Great to have you here, Larry, and look forward to maybe seeing you in person sometime.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So Larry, I've read the book Selling from the Heart. I think it's fantastic, and it hits an area of sales and selling that's not covered a lot. I can definitely see a gap there because most of our sales literature, if you like, is about process. It's about structure. It's about technique. Well, you're talking about something very different. So why did you write the book? Did you see some space in the literature there, or some gaps with what salespeople are doing?
I wrote it for actually a couple reasons, Steve. I wrote it because, main thing is I made a promise to my wife when we got married that I was going to write a book by the time I was 50 years old. So that was one of the reasons why. So it actually took a little bit longer. By the time Selling from the Heart came out, I was 53.
Okay.
And so now the book's been out. My birthday's in a couple weeks, but that was the main reason. The second reason why I wrote the book is I really wanted, from my perspective, to share with the world, not knowing what to expect. I just wanted to speak what I believe and to share a message in a way there's a strong message behind the book.
Yeah.
I promise that people who read it, it's going to pack a punch. It's going to have you look inside of yourself. And why I wrote that book this way was, I'm going to take you back if I can. I'm going to share a quick story because
Please.
It happened about 22, 23 years ago. And I didn't know that at that time it would send me down this journey that I'm on now, or at least kickstart it. So I grew up in the office technology space. And I never, I double majored in college. I never expected that I was going to graduate with 2 degrees from college and wind up selling copiers. But it kind of happened, right? And I was into my career. So if this goes back about 20 something years ago. So now I'm probably in my early to mid 30s when this happens. And I set up a meeting with the chief financial officer of a large manufacturing company. So this was a company that was on my targeted list. The guy was pitching me a shutout. It'd taken me years to get to the point where I was at. And I think everybody in sales can relate to that.
When you say pitching a shutout, what do you mean?
Oh, I forgot. So sorry, folks. I'm a baseball junkie, so it's an analogy I use.
Put it into cricket terms.
Say what?
Can you put it into cricket terms?
Dude. Okay, so listen. I tried watching cricket, and I still, to this day, I don't even understand it. Just like, you don't understand some baseball analogy, but that's all good. So when I say pitching a shutout, it's a Major League Baseball term. It's just, in other words, the pitchers just got the batter's number, right?
Okay.
Everything the pitcher's throwing, nobody's hitting, right?
Yes.
So I kind of relate that term in sales, right? The CFO pitched me a shutout. Every time I called, they didn't return my calls. I couldn't get through. The guy pitched me.
You finally got him.
You got it? So now you got the term, Steve?
Yeah, but you finally got a meeting with this guy after all that effort.
So I finally get the meeting with the CFO of one of my targeted accounts. I walk in. Now keep in mind, I was the number one person on my sales team. So life was good and so forth. I walk in, I'm 5'10", no more than 15 minutes into this meeting, Steve. And the CFO goes, "Larry, time out."
Right.
Swear. Time out, game over, right? I just have to stop you. And I go, "Did I say something to offend you? I'm just curious." And he just goes, "I'm just letting you know that you're the third copier rep who's been in my office in the last week. And I just can't take it anymore." And I said, "What? Where are you going with this?" And he said, "You've asked the same set of questions. maybe with a different tone to it, maybe delivered in a different manner. But it's been all about you. It's been how great your company is, how great your service is. You've spent 15 minutes and you've really not even asked any questions about me, my concerns, and so forth. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I called you out on it.
Mm.
Dude, this is a true story.
Yes.
So I had like
Doing you
this.
a favor.
Well, it gets even better.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a notebook and I folded the notebook in half, and I had about one butt cheek off the chair because mentally I said, game over, right?
Mm.
Guy called me out. I have no shot in hell. Might as well just suck it up, move on, apologize to the guy, shake his hand. Sorry, I wasted his time, and move on. But something inside of me said, you know what, Larry, turn this into a learning moment. And when I share with people all the time, I eat critique and vulnerability for breakfast. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Yep.
I don't care. So I sat back down and I asked the guy, hey, can you, first of all, hey, I apologize, but can you help me understand why you said what you said?
Mm.
And
I think that's gold. He's doing you such a favor, and you're open to the feedback as well. Because what do most buyers do? They'll suffer through it. They'll nod politely. Then you'll never hear from them.
Yeah, you're right. And then you wonder why you didn't get the deal.
Yes.
Or you wonder why they ghosted you, right? You know the term ghosted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Going dark.
So, yeah. So then for 45 minutes, I was given the best life lesson ever by a chief financial officer.
Mm.
He said, you know what? Why don't you flip the script for a second? Look at it through my eyes, my lens, my vision, what I value, what are my initiatives, and start lacking onto that and really ask great questions that get me engaged from the get-go.
Okay.
That was 45 minutes. I looked him in the eye and I said, you know what? You gave me the best life lesson ever. I promise you this, it will never happen again.
Mm.
Guy became a client of mine. Still to this day, Steve, wow. We're friends. I tell that story over and over and over and over again, because what I did is I went on a journey, and I had no idea that was selling from the heart. That was the launch of Selling from the Heart. I had no idea until, I launched it 3 years ago.
Yes.
But what I did is I went on this journey, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to take what I was just schooled on, and I'm going to go back to my customers, and I'm going to ask them, what do they value? What would they like to see from me? What am I doing right? What could I be doing better? And I packaged that all up.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? All they want is for me to be the real deal. They just want me to be a normal human being and have a genuine, heartfelt question, place them up on a silver business platter, and show that I care. That's what they want. And and it was from that point on, I said, I was never going to screw around with this ever again. Because I grew up.
How did that compare to the methodology then? Like, I was entering sales around that time, late 80s. And I was in the tech industry, and there were a lot of guys who'd come from copiers had come into our business, and we were fairly new, but the copier guys, they'd been through the Xerox training and everything. And we all thought they were pretty advanced and pretty sharp. But did the copier methodology cover any of this or talk about being customer focused?
Well, now you're going to really wind me up here in a second when you start talking about customer focused. A lot of what I was coached and trained on are hard stuff, right? Hard skill set stuff.
Okay.
A lot of what I uncovered in that meeting that now I packaged and made it my own was the soft skills.
Mm.
The heart-based stuff, the authenticity, the being genuine. And the other thing why I kind of gravitated towards that is I grew up with all sisters. Most of my cousins were all females, right? My dad was a rocket scientist for the U.S. Air Force inside in the government. So he traveled a lot. So I really latched onto my mom because, she was there most of the time because my dad traveled. So yeah, I guess you can call me mama's boy, and I really don't care. But I always said, hey, you know what? I'm a male trapped in a female body, right? I had a lot of female tendencies, but that's okay. I don't mind crying. I don't mind sharing what's really going on inside me, where most guys throw up that ego, macho, bravado
Right.
front. And I just said, you know what? I don't care if you're male or female. You're going to get to know me. You're going to get to know what makes me tick.
Mm.
And I'm going to get to know what makes you tick, because it was that mental switch that made me real. And this is what I want people to understand is I think you're already in sales, and I don't care what you sell, you're already behind the 8 ball already, whether
Yes.
you believe me or not, right? And sales is tough. Sales is brutal. You can make it as hard as you want, or you can make it as easy as you want. But I learned from that moment is if I don't get to know somebody, if I don't get to know the real Steve and they don't get to know the real Larry, then if we ever do business together, it's been
Yep.
based on a facade.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into some of that detail, and I know you're really big on the opening and working out our value prop and what we stand for and all of that. But could you just give me what's the high level of selling from the heart? What are the key concepts?
The the first part, the first 3-4 chapters are all about looking inside.
Okay.
And here and I'll use the term, some people aren't going to like it, but I say get brutally honest,
Mm.
right? Just put that mirror up in front of you and look at yourself and say, what can I be doing better? And why am I going down this road? And I'll use these analogies and I think will drive the point across is I was on highly functional sales teams and I was on highly dysfunctional sales teams. And we were always coached to product knowledge, solutions knowledge, support knowledge,
Yep.
all these things that are important, and I'm not dogging it. But there wasn't one sales leader, one sales manager that I had that helped the sales team become the best version of themselves. And when I brought selling from the heart to the forefront, to the business table, and I decided to write the book, I said, you know what? I'm going to write it from all my life stories, what I believe things should be. And it's working on ourselves, because if we fail to work inside of ourselves, if we fail to bring the best version of ourselves to the business table, then what happens? And
Mm.
I'll use this analogy is
Yeah.
we always do preventative maintenance on our car. You know, we go to the dentist on a routine basis. At least I hope we do, right? You may get your annual checkup at a physician's office. If you own a house, you're going to make sure your house is well kept up and so things don't break. And I think you see where I'm going with this. But
Right.
how many people, and we'll just say salespeople out there, how many salespeople work on themselves? How many salespeople have an internal preventative maintenance that they do on themselves, where whether that be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly,
Yeah.
they just self-reflect and say, what can I do better? You know, can I become obsessed with learning? Can I become obsessed with feedback? Can I be obsessed with critique on what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong? I just made that an obsession.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why I wrote Selling from the Heart, where the first 4+ chapters are all about working on ourselves first,
Mm.
doing the hard work first,
Okay.
really getting comfortable with what we know of ourselves. And this is why is I find a lot of salespeople are just broken. They
Mm.
might be successful, but they're broken. And if you really peel it back and really peel it back, is they just don't know who they are. They can't clearly define who they are, why they exist, what they're doing. They're just there, though they may be successful, if you get what I'm throwing at you.
Yeah. So when you say broken and they've got these challenges, so how does that manifest? What are the implications of that in someone's sales career?
I think inconsistent and spotty results. And I talk about it in my book. I
Mm.
said the one thing that I've seen time and time again, salespeople are consistently inconsistent.
Mm.
Now think
Okay.
about that. Salespeople are consistently inconsistent. They inconsistently work on the things that they know they should be doing to get consistent
Yep.
results.
Sure. Sure.
It was just grounded in me a long time ago. And maybe it's my upbringing and having a dad who was a rocket scientist and so forth. But I was grilled on certain things when I was, you know, in my younger days, that you had to do certain things. You had to do this every single day. I had to do my homework every single day, no questions asked. It was
Mm.
non-negotiable. I had to read every day. It was just part of what we had to do. And that's just how I was raised.
Yes.
So how does this transfer to sales? Is if we fail to work on ourselves, if we fail to improve ourselves, we're never going to see the consistent results that I know that everyone's capable of achieving.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and we know that there are so few salespeople that do that. Like the few that do it, well, they're absolute rock stars, right? Because I look at the sales field, like there's so much to understand, so much to learn. It's never ending. Like personally, I would spend half an hour to an hour a day, understanding some aspect of sales. Whether that's reading articles or reading a book or watching videos or whatever. Like, what's your approach to learning it, and what was it? During maybe after you had that CFO meeting, what was your approach to improving yourself?
A couple things. I'm obsessed with reading. I read constantly.
Yep.
I'll set aside 15, 30 minutes every day and just read. I don't care if it's a book. I don't care if it's an article on the internet. I don't care if it's, an old white paper that I have in a file somewhere laying around. I make a mental note, 15 to 30 minutes a day I read every single day.
Yep.
The other thing, and I'm going to challenge salespeople on this, and this is where I got my best education. You just have to ask. Is the best source of learning comes from your current customers.
You tell me more about that.
So you just have to ask. So for instance, right, I don't care what sales vertical that you all sell into, what channel you all sell into, and things like that. They're all going to have upper level, mid-level, and lower level decision makers, influencers, and things like that. I would sit down, and that's where the human approach came from. Just non-selling. This is where I challenge salespeople. How many non-selling conversations are you having with your current customers? And really get to know them. So what I would do, and I do this on a consistent basis, is if I was sitting there, I would just pick out 3 or 4 different people inside of one of my accounts. So let's just say director of finance, director of IT, maybe somebody in the accounting department, and maybe an office manager for those that are in lower level sales. And I would just start asking them, tell me a little bit more about the day-to-day. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Right? What are some of the initiatives you're working on? If I was to become more educated on what you do, your role as a director of finance, director of IT, somebody in accounting, where could I go to learn something about what you do? Can you help me understand your world? And some of them may say, well, why? And I said, because if I understand your world, your issues, your concerns, then I'm of equal business stature to you, right? Yes, I'm walking like you, I'm acting like you, I'm talking like you. But furthermore, it's those golden nuggets of free training that I would go out and use to prospect to other directors of finance, other directors of IT, other accounting departments. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you can get sales coaching and training from anywhere, but I think learning moments come from reading, finding a mentor, asking great questions, and you have the best knowledge base sitting right in front of you. It's your current freaking customers. All you got to do is ask.
Absolutely. It's really good to understand. I've done this a couple of times, and understand where you fit in, to their world. And we think when we're talking to them that they're just focused on us, and we're important to them and whatever. But you actually find out they're running this huge portfolio of projects, and we're just part of that. Or maybe we are really important to them, and we're not realizing it, or we're a critical part of their infrastructure. So yeah, I think a lot of gold can come out of those discussions.
But what's interesting is many in sales just fail to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just fail to ask.
Great tip. I think it's a great tip. And we should take advantage when we've got those customer relationships, to learn from it for sure. For sure.
And see, and you just brought up something that's near and dear to me. Customer relationships, that will sure test your strength of relationship with somebody.
Yes.
It's their willingness to sit down and give you their undivided attention for a little bit to help you. If I'm just in a world, if you can show your customers you appreciate and value them.
Yes. Absolutely.
What do you think happens in return?
Well, it's going to come back to you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
10 times. Yeah.
And I always say this, I might not have been the brightest person out there, but I was the most caring and heartfelt person I was out there, because I knew that's what, and deep down in my heart, that's what I knew people wanted, especially in the sales world that we operate in, where no one trusts us. If
Yes.
I could just do something completely different, if I can start asking my customers, and as I'm building the relationships with them, what do you like and don't like about people who are calling on you?
Yes.
Describe to me what a great sales professional looks like, right?
Sure.
But conversely, describe what a crappy salesperson looks like.
Absolutely.
Share with me what
You give
great
me
support.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, one
share
of
with
my
me.
clients, we're bringing a customer along to a sales meeting in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm thinking of the questions we're going to ask them. So you give me some good ideas there.
Yeah, and this is, we can make sales as tough as we want, and I've said it. But one of the things that I was always critical on is how well I opened it, how well I positioned myself, how
Mm,
well I dug below the surface. And I just don't think it's too easy in today's society to connect with people.
right.
Way too easy,
Yeah. So
right?
a connection, it's not valued.
Right, with the advent of social and all that, it's so easy to connect to our current customers. It's so easy to connect to prospects and
Sure.
everybody out in the marketplace. But when you're connecting with somebody, let's just say it's in a face-to-face manner, or Zoom, or Skype, whatever method you choose, is you got to dig below the surface. And many in sales just don't dig below the surface. They're not
Mm,
connecting with meaning, right? They're not engaging. They're not asking great questions. They're just asking those surface level questions.
yes. Yes.
And
Right.
they're not hunkering down, right? They're not digging in. And
Could
I
you
just
Could you
go,
give me an example, Larry, for everyone, so we know what you mean? So what makes up a good opening, and what sort of questions are good? What sort of questions aren't so good?
So, again, and throwing me on the spot, on this one, but that's okay. If I was, you want to role play?
Yeah, sure.
So let's just say that, let's just say since this is kind of, we're both sales geeks, right? So we'll just make this sales related. So I'm like a sales improvement coach,
Okay.
and you're a VP of
I'm a sales
sales.
leader. So
Okay, you're a sales leader of a small sales team. So
yep,
whether I get you on a call, right, or a Zoom call or whatever, I would say, hey Steve, I really appreciate your time.
great.
Over the last 2 or 3 months in working with vice president of sales, I've really uncovered a few alarming things, and I'd just like to share them with you. I've uncovered that salespeople today are struggling to grow net new business. They're
Mm,
struggling to engage in business conversations. And more importantly, what concerns me, and I don't know what you'll think about this, is salespeople are struggling to build deep, meaningful relationships with their current customers.
mm,
Just,
right.
I'm just just out of curiosity, which one of these can you align to?
Mm. Well, definitely can relate to both of those to some degree. I think most sales organizations have that.
Yeah, I mean, just out of curiosity, of those two, I mean, which one stands out the most? Which one is like really important?
Yeah, well, consistently getting new business is a challenge. We have some good quarters and some bad quarters, and some folks are good at it, some aren't so good at it.
So why do you think that's happening? I'm just
Um,
curious.
yeah,
Why do you think you struggle with consistency?
we're just doing the activity. We've got a sort of different level of skill set across the team, and we just don't seem to be able to fire on all cylinders at once.
Interesting. Why do you think there's a different skill set across your team? Help me understand that.
There's different experiences in the team. Some are more motivated than others. Some have just learnt more and are more highly skilled than the other folks.
And it goes on and on and on, right, Steve? But you see where we're going? I love this stuff.
Yes.
But you see, I think what happens is that just not an engaging type of conversation?
Well,
I made it about, I showed you, I appreciated your time. I brought a couple issues that I see out in the
yes,
sales world today with other VP of sales.
sure.
And then I just asked, which one of these
Well, you
can you
haven't mentioned
align?
that you sell sales training, or you have a program, or you've got this experience, and so which is what the typical pitch might be. The first 5 to 10 minutes, we do this, we do that. You know,
Right, because it's interesting because, and this is why I say salespeople straight across the board, you got to step away from your company, your product, your solutions. You
yes,
cannot open a conversation in a new manner with somebody who doesn't know you, who's giving
sure,
15 to 30 minutes of their valuable time to spew crap all over them because they've heard it before.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
and there's going to be people that listen to your podcast who may or may not agree with me, and that's okay. But all I'm
I don't
saying
see
is,
why not. Like this is what salespeople have to do. Like most companies are not going to do this for you. I think that's the sad reality. Big companies are just like hardwired to product train and just like push product and company information. The salesperson usually has to craft this themselves. If they've got an enlightened sales manager or sales director, possibly they're getting some of this on top of that. But I think
I hate to burst people's bubble who's listening to this, but I don't care where you're at right now listening to this. There's nobody who wakes up in the morning and says, I cannot wait to talk to fill in the blank with your name and your company name about your products and services. I don't know of any executive out in your marketplace who wakes up
yeah,
and driving into the office with their cup of coffee or a juice or eating a banana or something like that and says, oh, wow, I cannot wait to talk to Steve this morning about XYZ, man. I'm fired up. It just doesn't exist, right?
sure,
But conversely, that executive who's driving into the office in the morning, drinking their coffee or eating their banana is going to say, I would love to talk to Steve if Steve can help me understand and better solve the issues and challenges that I have
sure.
going on in my office.
Absolutely.
So one of the
He'll
things
be
that I
driving
always,
and thinking, I've got to improve close rates. I've got to improve my average sales price. I've got to improve margin. They've got these problems they want help with.
right, because I learned this because I grew up, right, and I beat the hell out of the industry that I came out of. It provided very well for my family. I love it. It's near and dear to me. But there's nobody who wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to talk to somebody about a copier or service or
Mm,
solutions and all that. So set that aside. What I'm going to say is everyone sells outcomes. It's up to salespeople to uncover the business issues, challenges, the initiatives that are going on, how you can help them do better business, and layer on top of it your products, solutions, or services that can help them. And
yes.
this is what I want to stress. And if you can't do that, then you got to prepare to find somebody who's better equipped to do it. And
Mhm.
people are going to go, Larry, you're a whack job on that one. There's no way on God's green earth I'm going to do that. Well, listen to me. I've done it.
Yep.
If you can't help somebody with any of your offerings, then find somebody in your network that can,
Mm.
and watch what happens to your freaking credibility.
Yes.